This is the Darshan Talks podcast, regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. My name is Darshan Kulkarni. For those of you who don't know me, it is my mission to help patients trust the products they depend on. I'm an attorney, I'm a pharmacist, and I advise companies with FDA-regulated products. So if you have an interest in an FDA-regulated company or their product, this is the podcast for you. Today's podcast is really interesting because I get to talk to the person I think of as Dan the Man, the social media maven, the expert on all, the guru on all things clinical trials, the man, the machine, the legend, Dan Sfera. So if you are in clinical research, if you're a CRO looking for a site, if you are a site looking for a mentor, if you are a mentor looking for an expert, and if you are a sponsor looking for the site for you, this is the podcast to tune in on. So ladies and gentlemen, our guest for today, Dan the Man, Dan Sfera. Hey Dan.
Thank you. Great intro, especially the last part. If you're a sponsor and you need sites, let me know. Let me know, guys and gals.
So here's the question. How do you find the sponsors? How are you now finding sponsors that you weren't doing, say, 2 years ago?
Okay, that's so. I guess much of it's remained the same. Biz dev is biz dev. You know, we have people that send out emails on clinicaltrials.gov. We use tools like ZymeWire to help better find, I guess, more intelligently look for studies. I think I just lost Darshan. Darshan? I'm live.
I'm still here.
Now you're back. Okay, I got you.
I'm just listening, and I'm trying to take myself off screen so that I can take notes.
Okay, good. So a lot of the biz dev has remained the same. Like the emails, the phone calls, the conferences have changed because there aren't any conferences anymore. But the networking, so what probably replaced in-person conferences is networking on LinkedIn, networking with other sites. What's really helped is this Latinos in clinical research, which we created. Mainly, we created that because there's a need for more diversity in research. But interestingly enough, we've had sponsors interested in us because of Latinos in clinical research, because sponsors want diversity in their studies. And it's been an easier way, and this was unintended, easier way for me to get access to sponsors. So now I talk to like the heads of the various CROs who are like, hey, we're interested in getting more diversity in our studies. So that was like a nice side effect. That wasn't planned that way. We just planned on doing Latinos clinical research because there's a need for it. But interestingly enough, when you give, I guess when it just shows when you provide value besides just me, like people actually reach out to you and they're like, hey, well, this is interesting. What are you doing? So that, and then Clubhouse has been, I haven't gotten any study on Clubhouse yet, but Clubhouse, and then a really out of the box thing again happened by accident. As a way to grow my YouTube channel, I've started reviewing some biotech stocks that I'm just personally interested in. And there's like a group of us. There's me, Dr. Al, Chris, Ashley, that are on the clinical research circle. And so we review some biotech stocks. We look at the pipeline, all the due diligence like investor would actually do, except we're less about the financials, and more about, because we understand clinical research. Hey Christine, how's it going? So the biotechs have been interested in us, and in the videos we actually talk about, hey, we're site owners. Dr. Al, this would be a study for you, right? Because he's an oncologist. If we review an oncology sponsor, and then those sponsors, because they're small, we only do small cap biotechs, not for any strategic reason other than those are the ones that have the most volatility. So those are the most exciting for me. I'm not excited doing a video on GlaxoSmithKline. I mean, what are you going to do? That's just a safe play. But like Kintara Therapeutics, ChemPharm, and then those companies don't get much coverage. So then they all, like, you post a video and you tag them on LinkedIn, they all going to watch it. And then they say, hey, I never knew about Dan Sfera. I never knew about Dr. Al. Wow, I didn't know they do our kind of studies. Interesting. So you start that conversation. So this is probably not practical for anybody out there, but it's what's worked for me. It's the best way to answer your question.
you've got so much there to jump into. So let's start with the you said that you do LinkedIn.
Yes, we love it.
Me too. I love LinkedIn. We're doing this on LinkedIn as we speak. And the thing that's different for me is LinkedIn's very different today than it was 2 years ago for me. And for example, 2 years ago, LinkedIn was basically a place I put my resume, and I update it every so often, and that's great. But now there's LinkedIn Live, and it's a way for me to communicate with people who I'm connected to, but quite honestly, I haven't spoken to in 5 years. And this forum, this podcast, has become a way for me to connect with people and go, what are you up to? I'm connected to you, but we haven't spoken, so let's just have a conversation. And that's been a really good way I've connected, spoken to people. But on the other hand, LinkedIn groups, I'm part of so many groups, but when I go into them, there's really nothing going on in them.
No.
So is that different from your experience? Like, are the clinical research groups that you're part of super live?
No, they're dead. The LinkedIn newsfeed is what's alive. It's like the opposite of Facebook, like the inverse. Because on Facebook, the newsfeed is kind of dead, but the groups, that's the algorithms pushing the groups. And LinkedIn, maybe LinkedIn will evolve into that. But I mean, it seems like they're just copying what Facebook did, but they're incorporating like their own thing as well. So Facebook started pushing the groups like last year, and that's still where you kind of want to be on Facebook. But LinkedIn, it's the opposite. They're pushing their lives, like you said. By the way, you're doing such a good job. Each time I'm on LinkedIn, I see you live. So I always drop a little comment, like a sun or a moon, depending if it's day or night, just so that you know that I'm watching Darshan, because I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate you as well, Dan. And I was doing that podcast with Ajit Pai, and you can click on it if you want. But I was doing the podcast and I saw your little message on there saying, I'm watching. So
that's right. The blockchain one was really good too.
I'm gonna have a few more blockchain ones, so stay tuned on that as well. But the point being, LinkedIn itself is changing. How you engage with this is changing. So if you thought that that's just where you put your resume, not so much anymore.
Right.
But on the other hand, Clubhouse. Let's talk Clubhouse, because you are a huge proponent of Clubhouse. I can't even get on there because I don't have an iPhone.
Right. I lucked out on the phone that I chose, but or the prison that I voluntarily entered is Apple instead of Google.
But they always start with Apple anyways, but they make you pay for it in most cases.
You know, most apps, I don't know. I thought most apps started with Android because it's cheaper to develop and you get more audience. But like Clubhouse, like Apple Store is meant to be like more, I guess, polished. Yeah.
Polished.
Yeah, so Clubhouse amazing. I haven't gotten a study from it yet, but I got connected to a lot of people, and actually in like really intimate ways. Like you talk for hours on there with the same people every week, and the rooms keep growing as more people start getting on. Like if you really want to stake your flag in the ground, I guess, or whatever the expression is, getting beachfront property in Malibu in the 1800s, the Clubhouse is kind of where it's at. Like Rod Raphael's perfect example. He's a site owner colleague of mine from Indianapolis. He's been doing, or he hasn't really been doing much of social media, a little bit here and there. Shout out to Rod Raphael, but like he got all into Clubhouse, and he's like big on Clubhouse, big time. He has his own room, so I think there's always advantages to being first if the platform survives. And Clubhouse may or may not survive. I'm not concerned with that. It's right now it seems to be creating some kind of magic, and it's at least causing some relationships. And we got a sub-investigator for one of my sites locally, which was kind of serendipitous, but through Clubhouse. So good things have happened so far. It is a lot of time though, and it's not my kind of thing, Darshan, because I can't record. I can't, like, once you leave the Clubhouse, it's gone forever. You had to have been there live. Like this live stream, people are live, but the replay's there, right? And like what I do, thanks to you, because I use StreamYard now too, I save the audio and now it's on my podcast, so it lives forever. Clubhouse doesn't. So the ROI, I don't know if it's as big for me personally as these other platforms. I think 2 hours on a live stream like this would be better ROI in the short term. but I'm kind of doing this for the long term because what if Clubhouse becomes the next big thing? Then I'd like to have been there.
But then here's my question: if we start playing that what if game, I mean, did you do Parlor?
No.
Or,
What's Parlor? That like Republican one? Not to get into politics, but that's. I had a Parlor just to see what it was all about, but I mean, I'm not posting anything. I was just, and then it got banned like literally the next day. So I had it for a day. But no, you pick your battles. You pick your. I guess you have. It's kind of like picking stocks. Like you're not investing money, but you're investing time, which is actually non-renewable. So it's in many ways way more valuable than money. So I look at Clubhouse, like I hear the noise. I wait like a month. I got on in February. I started hearing noise around December, and then January just got very loud. And February too, and then people were telling me like, why are you not on there? And for me that was like the catalyst, right? Why are you not on there? Right. Like they were expecting me on there already. So you just gotta make a gamble, like and it still may fail. Like there's, the bears would say Clubhouse lacks that 7-second, the dopamine rush that you get with any other social network, where you open it for 7 seconds. If you don't see something you like that gets your dopamine going, you're out. And because Clubhouse is live and you can get in when there's literally 7 seconds of like no talk,
right?
That person could be gone. So I understand the bear argument also, but it was a risk I was willing to take. It helps the brand too.
So you see this as a brand awareness discussion. You're not seeing. Have you had actual meetings with potential clients? I recognize you haven't closed the deal.
No, but it gets me closer. It puts my relationship with some of these people that I've been working with for years but never had a deal in a new context. And so I feel like it pushes those relationships forward or to another level.
See, for me, Clubhouse feels a little bit. I mean, I want to be part of Clubhouse. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah,
it feels a little bit like building computers in the 1970s. It could really hit it big, but right now there's a lot of hype and it's a lot of, for lack of a better term, nerds hanging around going, "I have Clubhouse."
Yeah, like it's kind of like, hey, you have to be invited, so it's like
exactly.
you feel like a VIP. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
By the way, Christine Naro has a Clubhouse invite.
That's right. She's been amazing. She's a Latinos in Clinical Research brand ambassador. Amazing. She's actually the Clubhouse queen. Like I told her she should start teaching a course on Clubhouse. She's that good at it. Really? She's another example of somebody who started with Clubhouse, and that's like her biggest. I think that's her biggest social network as far as followers and all that kind of stuff. Maybe LinkedIn's big for her now.
Christine, how many people do you have on Clubhouse right now listening to you? Let's see if she responds.
Christine's gotten big time with her branding, and that's probably partially due to the fact that she's a Patreon club member. Shameless plug to the Patreon community.
Okay. So by the way, Dan, how do they find you? People who are looking?
LinkedIn, just Dan Sfera, LinkedIn.
Okay. Christine's always pushing. Look at that. Please join the Guru Nation on Clubhouse.
She's amazing. And she just got hired as a big-time CRA for a sponsor at the sponsor level. She's going to be doing big things. I told her, hey, let's see how long this lasts, because now you're going to be working like for this sponsor. I don't know how much Clubhouse you're going to do, but let's see. I'm watching.
So Clubhouse is... One of the questions you had about Clubhouse is how long will it last? Which
right.
Totally valid question. Talk to me a little bit more about that dopamine rush. By the way, she has 551 followers on Clubhouse.
Wow, big time. Big time. I only have I think I'm under 400.
Yeah, she's to be fair, you're not Christine though.
I'm not Chris. She's the Clubhouse queen.
You could grow up to be Christine.
Yes, on Clubhouse we should all aspire to be Christine. I'm telling you.
I actually heard about this one who has like a couple million followers on Clubhouse. I'm like, how do you even do that?
Yeah, a lot of these VC guys, tech guys, crypto guys, they're big.
Yeah. So we talked about Clubhouse. now let's talk about Latinos in clinical research. So when you're talking about Latinos in clinical research, and what did it become? Where are you right now with it?
So we started that. We came up with the idea in October. We launched right around December. And so for those watching in the future, hello, because there's ROI for this. It's April 5th, 2021.
Yeah.
2021. I mean, you might be listening 2025 and you're laughing at Clubhouse, either because it's so big or it's irrelevant. The idea was actually inspired by Black women in clinical research. So there's a lady named Danielle Coe, who I interviewed on my podcast. And I was just amazed with her, like, and that's another example, like building your brand, if you want abnormal results, you've got to do abnormal things. You can't just do the regular things that everybody else does if you expect abnormal results. So she was trying to get a job in the industry, and I guess she was like sick of trying and getting rejected. So she created this group called Black Women in Clinical Research, and it grew. I mean, there's obviously was a huge need for Black women in clinical research to congregate, to have Zoom meetings with each other, to help each other out. And then she made Black men in clinical research. So by the time I interviewed her, I asked her, hey, like, I'm really inspired by your journey. And Monica, who you know, was in the room with me, and I called her in there. I said, hey Danielle, would you be okay with us starting Latinos in clinical research? Because we think we can do this too, just by hearing this podcast.
But Dan, you're Romanian.
I'm Romanian, yeah. I'm married to a Latina though, so maybe I like half. Maybe I think by marriage I could be a Mexican national. So I don't know if it counts. You're the attorney. You gotta let me know what that means. But basically, Danielle said, yeah, the more the merrier. Like, we need diversity, and so I got two more girls, Judy Galindo and Ashley Margot, to join, and we said, look, the goal is to increase diversity in the workforce and research. So starting at the sites, CROs, sponsors, college, high school level, and then the idea is if we get more of a workforce in clinical research that's diverse, we'll have an easier time getting patients that are diverse. And turns out that the workforce, like the people in the industry who are either working in the industry or want to work in the industry, they're really passionate about what we do, and a lot of them are not even Latino like me. You know, they're all ethnicities are in there. Just because it's interesting conversations about clinical research. Like, we have career coaching. We had a COVID series where we had a debate. Darshan, I gotta send you this debate between Dr. Hazen and Dr. Al-Jazairi. Oh my gosh, they shut down that COVID series. Now we're gonna do an educational series. We want to work with colleges, community colleges, on especially in like rural or heavily Hispanic communities, where there's community colleges, where we show them that clinical research is a career. The community colleges are jumping all over this, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a lot more opportunities there, but that's how Latinos in clinical research started. It started like from an inspirational podcast with Danielle. So it started from a good place, and it's actually like I said earlier, you know, giving us really good side effects as far as more studies and things like that.
So you're talking about these side effects, and people are reaching out to you. Are they going, let's talk to you about Latinos in clinical research, or is it just bringing visibility?
And here's the thing, Darshan, I shouldn't be surprised because I've been through this with the Guru, what you see behind me. Like, this also started from like a really pure place. I'm an entrepreneur, don't get me wrong. Like, but this started from a pure place. The Guru started from me in 2005, not knowing what anything was at my site. Like, I knew nothing. There's zero. And then I went to Google. Everything was behind a paywall, or I would buy a book from Center Watch that was like $400 that told me nothing. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, like, that planted a seed in my head. So I started making the content, sites that started giving me opportunities. So I shouldn't have been surprised with Latinos in clinical research, because it's the same exact, like, it came from a pure place. But now people are coming after us, like big CROs and sponsors, saying, hey, we're actually interested for our DE&I initiatives, the diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives that just about every sponsor now has, just about every CRO thinks is super important. So they're coming to us and saying, hey, we want to learn how to be a part, how to be involved. And oh, by the way, did you say that you have a site network? Did you say that you guys do sites? Because we have Zoom calls like all the time now for LICR. So that's been one of the unintended side effects that's actually been really beneficial. Super. And I shouldn't have been surprised, but I still am, because it's the same exact thing that the clinical trials guru did. I mean, I should have just been able to see, okay, how do I replicate that, and came up with this plan, but that's not how it started.
And if you did plan it, then it wouldn't be as organic, it wouldn't be as natural, and probably
not as authentic. Yeah.
The same way, yeah. So okay, so it's become a forum. It's a reason for people to talk to you, and that's been really beneficial. So let's take the last one that you sort of talked about, which is biotech stocks. Now that's an idea you and I talked about at least 5 to 7 years ago.
We talked about this since I've known you, just about.
And I still haven't got an invite to join you, so I'm holding.
I thought we talked about that, and you said, I don't know, I'm busy right now. I don't know. You said something along those lines.
Am I ever busy for the clinical trials guru? It's not even a clinical trials guru. It's the clinical trials guru.
You're a very busy person there, Sean. Yes, it's possible. But yeah, you know, how did that start? That started with, well, you planted the seed for sure. You and I, we talked about this years ago. And it's something that we just sat on. We never did anything with it. And, okay, so we had this other brand called the Clinical Scoop. Yeah. And on the Clinical Scoop, we would write articles and things like that. Well, that's been rebranded to the Clinical Research Circle, which I still have to make the website for, by the way. But we kind of rebranded it, and we thought, okay, well, in order for this to be sustainable for us, it has to be something that's interesting for us. And covering the stocks was something that we were all interested in, because we do that for fun anyway. So why not just do the due diligence live on air for some of these biotechs? So we're expecting nothing out of it, maybe just some eyeballs from investors or people like from my existing audience that was interested in these biotechs.
Right.
And it turned into a couple of things. It turned into like people from these drug companies reaching out to us and asking, who are you? Like, we didn't know that researchers also make videos on stocks. We're like, yeah, well, we didn't either. But it turned into like a blueprint for job seekers or people trying to level up their careers to get in contact with these biotechs immediately. So one of the ways we do the due diligence is we go on clinicaltrials.gov, we try to look at the results, we try to read between the lines, because that's our strength, really. We're not going to look at the stock chart. You know, there's people that do that kind of stuff. Right. We're going to look at what we know. Right. And what I found out with these micro caps, small market cap biotechs, every single one has a contact on clinicaltrials.gov that's not a catch-all box. It's like a real human being. Like, usually it's the founder, the CEO, the vice president, somebody high up.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I've looked at 5 of these, and I found, this is rare. I don't see this on Eli Lilly when I do Eli Lilly. Yeah. So I started making videos for my followers. Hey, if you want job, go reach out. Just follow the stocks we look at. Go contact them all on LinkedIn. I have so many CRAs reaching out to me, telling me, I am so fed up with my employer. I've been here for 10 years. I've hit a glass ceiling. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you need to contact these small market cap biotechs, because you would go from like a cog in the wheel at XYZ CRO to like one of the main people running the research for them with 10 years of experience. 10 years of experience, and these people are complaining. So those were some of the unintended consequences from that. Not to mention perhaps another business opportunity, which I can talk to you off the air, because it's a really good one. And we haven't done it yet, so I don't want to like give that up right now.
Fair enough. So we can get into a whole bunch more conversations. I actually was going to talk to you about, I don't know if you heard about this one woman looking to get access to a drug. And the pharma company saying no. So it's basically investigational study. She can get access to the drug. But I think that's going to be a conversation for a different time. So we're already at 25 minutes and we've barely started scratching the surface. So Dan, quick question for you. Where can people reach you again?
Dan Sfera on LinkedIn or theclinicaltrialsguru.com.
Okay. So what is one question you want my audience to answer for you?
Jeez. What interests you about small cap, these biotech stocks? What interests you about small market cap biotechs?
So I'll answer the question for you to get you started. Okay. For me, what's really interesting is hopefully they're coming in with technology that is not a me too. Often these small companies are going, we want to revolutionize the world. They're not looking to come up with the 14th statin out there. They're going, how do we change the paradigm? So that's why I like small micro caps, if you will.
I've noticed that too.
Yeah. So during this podcast, we landed up talking about how Dan Sfera, Dan the man, Dan the clinical trials guru, does some of his marketing. And we talked about everything from emails, Zynewire, how conferences aren't really happening right now. So he's using LinkedIn, how that's become different nowadays compared to where it was 2 years ago. How Latinos in clinical research has played a massive role. We've talked about Clubhouse and if it survives, how Dan's going to have beachfront property in Malibu. We've talked about... we've talked about the evolution of clinical scoop to the clinical circle, and we've talked about biotech stocks. Did we miss anything, Dan?
No, I want to add the Latinos in clinical research and Clubhouse. They're very similar in the sense that they probably occupy the majority of my time right now, or the majority of my free time, and a lot of work time too, with almost no ROI.
Yeah.
But I don't expect that to remain that way for much longer. And I think that's the necessary barrier most entrepreneurs have to cross before they start getting like tons of opportunity. It's the same exact thing as the clinical trials guru. Right now, the clinical trial guru has tons of ROI for me. The Latinos clinical research Clubhouse, if they stay on that same trajectory, that's exactly what's going to happen, I think. So you got to like put in the time and hope for the best in many cases.
Very, very cool. Nothing in this podcast should be considered as legal or clinical advice or even marketing advice of any kind. It's intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. For those of you who missed it, Dan, where can they reach you again?
Dan Sfera on LinkedIn and theclinicaltrialsguru.com.
There you go. So if you like this podcast, please leave a comment. Please subscribe. That's how I get to know if you are listening. Be like Christine. Leave comments. Discuss with us. You can find me at Darshan Talks on Twitter, or you can go to our website at darshantalks.com. Thanks again, Dan.
Thank you, Darshan.
This is the Darshan Talks podcast. Regulatory guy, irregular podcast with host Darshan Kulkarni. You can find the show on Twitter at Darshan Talks or the show's website at darshantalks.com.